The 7DRL 2024 competition has concluded, and once again I took part in it. Now, before I basically sort of jump into reviewing my scoring and stuff like that, I'll note that basically I plan to sort of jump into the 7DRLs for this year, and as such I didn't really do an announcement type of video, basically noting that basically I'd be doing so. And I've just been steadily going along, reviewing, recording videos, basically what I did last year. I wasn't really planning on doing as many reviews as I did or as many videos as I basically did, but I decided that I would just do one once more this year, so why not? But that's basically come to a conclusion at this point with the official review process. So let's talk a little bit about it. So I'll note that Slashy had a theme here, where the idea is basically going to revolve around traditional relics, and fairly good theme for the 20-year sort of anniversary I guess this was. But the results are basically in, both for the actual itch.io page here, and also for the official rankings. Much like last year, I basically did a lot of reviews, and I almost hit basically an entire third basically of the reviews for all reviews basically I went in. But whatever, that's fine. Hopefully next year it'll be some more reviewers basically help out. Now, I will note that this year I basically did take into heart a lot of the sort of ideas I basically had for last year's evaluation and what I'm basically going to change. Essentially, last year, I decided it's going to be a little bit harsher in terms of judging completeness as well as the other thing I was basically going to judge, aesthetics. And I think for most part with completeness, because I basically include that idea where if you basically don't have your instructions, I'm basically going to hit you for that. Aesthetics, I didn't really see a whole lot of blue and black ASCII though, so not really much change there. And then fun, innovation, scope, rogue-liteness, some of the stuff is basically varied, but well, let's just jump into it. So I'm basically gonna do this in steps basically, so you can basically see this as I go throughout this video, basically doing it. As you can basically see here, I haven't really tallied up everything yet, but I do have my comments pre-tallied so you can actually see them. So for completeness pre-tally, I figured I was far rougher this year in this category, and I believe that's basically because because people didn't have instructions a lot of the time, or they have very poor instructions, they lost points for it. In terms of aesthetics, similar to last year, I don't think I was too rough in this category. So basically, it was sort of a lot of threes perhaps, maybe some twos, not too many ones. Fun pre-tally. Much like last year, I expect ones for me to be quite brutal. So I'm gonna just note this right now. This is the only one I basically have anything for, but for what I'm basically gonna do next year, I'm gonna try to figure out a way to quantify fun for next year, so I can actually give some instruction to people in wider games and fun. Because I'm not really basically doing that right now. I basically have been going with games. Is it fun? Yeah, I find it fun, or yeah, I don't find it fun. So that's not really an explanation as to why it's not fun. So I'm gonna try to quantify fun for next year. Will be one of the things I'll do. All right, innovative. Maybe I gave a few less frees this year, and I'll note that basically here's the thing about innovation. Because the theme this year was traditional roguelike, a lot of people weren't as innovative as I basically thought they could be, and in some cases you can be innovative with a traditional roguelike, but I think in some ways it also really hurt a lot of the innovation for a lot of people. Probably the biggest can to actually sort of throw out in the counter here is basically piss and vinegar, which is basically one of the top 7DRLs for this year. Piss and vinegar is basically probably one of my favorite for mechanics, but it really suffered from the fact that it basically was in sort of traditional setting of rooms and hallways. And it would have been a lot better if they had a different sort of dungeon type of basically to run around, or not really a dungeon, but say a bar or some other type of establishment. But whatever. For most part, I gave less frees, but still ran a gauntlet in terms of value. Scope pre-tally, I thought there was basically a lot of twos this year because a lot of people didn't really go above or beyond. A lot of people didn't really do terrible. And then for Rogue's pre-tally, I expect a lot more frees this year because it's the theme, traditional roguelike. So a lot of people are basically going to try and stick to the theme, and if you're basically doing a traditional roguelike, it's very hard not to get a score free basically for it. Alright, so how is this basically going to go along here? I'm going to basically tally these up in a moment. I'm just going to pause this and then we'll just be right back. Alright, that took a little bit of doing, but it's finally done. So let's go over my tallies. So first things first, this is the tallies from 2023. And, as you can basically see, I basically had a fairly high amount of, completeness here with, COVID 2s, high aesthetics, some 2s, and then very low 1s. Fun, of course, is basically like the reverse of this with, lots of 1s and, few 3s. Innovative is sort of balanced. Scope is basically sort of, a little bit harsh, but, still fairly balanced. And then Rolex is, extreme. This year, and I wish there's a way to sort of viewing these side by side. I guess I should probably do that. So let's go open a new tab. Open a new window, maybe. How do I do that again? I'm completely firing myself here, but you get the idea. So there, that worked. Just gonna put this here. Put this one here. Yes, this is stuff I should have pre-made, but whatever. Okay, so here's basically how it sort of looks right now. So in the year of 2024, the difference basically of completeness is that there's a far less amount of ones, but I was a little bit more balanced basically the 2s and 3s, I guess. So not a big change, but I still basically gave a lot of a lot more 2s overall, I guess. Aesthetics, basically, we have a lot more 2s, I guess, this time around. So I guess it's a little bit harsher with that. Not exactly a bad thing, but I mean, not really a big change. Just more balanced. Fun. I was actually a little bit less willing to give 1s this year, which is good overall, I guess. Still a lot of 1s, but not a whole lot. Innovative, again, runs the gauntlet. Basically, you have a few 1s, you have a few 3s, but mostly it's just 2s. Scope, even more balanced this year with well, I guess it's just more balanced overall because we have a lot of 2s, some 1s, less 3s, but whatever. And then with Rolex, basically it's as I said, a lot more 3s this year because that's just how it basically went with everyone being doing traditional Rolex. I basically did 86 reviews as opposed to 94, and not basically much more to say in that. So where does this basically leave us? I guess with this year's sort of Rolex and stuff like that. This is basically over here a little bit. So I guess basically overall with completeness, it wasn't really a big change. I thought basically having people getting docked for not having instructions would actually hurt them a lot more, but I didn't really hurt them that much. Aesthetic wise, I'm actually kind of surprised that it kind of ended up that it was basically a lot more 2s and 3s this time around, but not really. It probably makes more sense. I'll have to do something about fun, by the way, because I'm basically not really giving a lot of people reasons to why it's basically they're getting 1s and stuff, but that's what it is. Innovative, whatever. So let's see here. Completeness post tally. I generally liked how I judged this year. That's probably the wrong place to put this, but actually looking at basically from more even-eyed thing, it wasn't that much of a change. Not really that much of a change. Aesthetics. Fun. I'm still see quite brutal. Now overall, what I basically is look at innovative. maybe I had a few less frees this year, but I think I still ran a gauntlet in values. For the most part, I think that's basically very true. I was probably a lot more balanced basically this year than like last year. That's all I can really say about that. So. And more frees overall. Scope, extremely balanced for the most part. And of course for like, rollingness, basically like, a lot more rolling this year. Alright, so that basically includes like, this part of like, the stuff here. So something basically like to keep in mind, by the way. Well, part of the reason I basically like I'm doing like this sort of like judging basically for like, my tallies and stuff like that to sort of like, go over them. It's supposed to both improve it as basically like, also sort of like, get feedback on like, what basically like, you think I'm basically like overdoing and stuff like that. I'll note that basically I was basically looking at the Discord file, and someone's basically going like, there should be like few ones basically given, unless like you really like mean it. For the most part, I actually sort of disagree with that. That might be true if it basically had like a sort of 1 to 5 rating, where like, you basically have like, you strongly dislike something, then like, you should give it 1. But where you only have like, free options here, 1, 2, 3, it's really hard to sort of like, not give out ones, unless like, you want to basically, be like, giving out frees everywhere. But I don't think that's like right. So yeah, I think this is sort of appropriate. Anyways, next year I think like for the most part, I was pretty like happy with like how I basically judged entries. Like if completed, so I'm probably just gonna do that again. Where if you basically like don't have instructions, you're basically gonna get hit for it. Aesthetic wise, again like I judged them fairly well. Fun. I'm gonna try to like figure out how way of quantifying fun for next year because that's just something that like needs to be improved. Innovation. Not really a whole lot to say about innovation. Innovation is innovation. Basically, if you do something new, then I'm going to basically, recognize it as being new, and I'll give you points for it. Scope. Now, here's something to note about scope, by the way. Scope's like a really hard like thing to basically judge, but the thing about scope is that like it really like goes to the gameplay. And here's the thing: if you have like say like a whole lot of like bells and whistles to your thing, but not a lot of gameplay, you might get like a little bit of scope. I might recognize it, but at the same time, it's really the gameplay that's like what I'm basically sort of after with judging here. So, how much gameplay is there? If there's little, you'll be hurting. That's all I can really say here. And in relicness, I mean, like, I covered this thoroughly last year. Alright, well, that's basically it for, like, sort of like the tally, like, sort of video here. Basically going over, like, how I basically judge stuff. Maybe like might give some people some insight based on how I sort of judge, because I do believe that's like, part of the reason I'm basically doing this video. The thing is, like, I was like going like, on like in like, 2023, like, there's basically a good chance that like even if I did like half, I might give like, a core chance basically me judging your video. Well, this time around, there's a good chance basically that like, I judge your video with like, alarming rate here, basically, so I would say. Over like 2/3 of the entries basically that are successful got judged by me. So yeah, you should probably be taking into account like what I basically like doing for like judging. So yeah, I don't plan to actually do this like like last year, like basically, like, if I want to basically do like less reviews, so hopefully more people actually like join into review. But whatever. That's the thing, by the way. If you actually like, think that you could review better, then like do so, because we can definitely use a lot more reviews basically for the reviewer process. So jump in. Even if it's just like 5 that you basically do for yourself. But whatever. All right, take care, all. That's basically enough for this video. Let's just move on.